Hello. How's everyone today? Innovation. Innovation means a lot of things to a lot of people. Innovation in emerging markets is always a bit hard to understand. I've been traveling the world for 5 years, going in all these ecosystems, all these emerging markets, trying to understand how innovation works and how it starts. And a few years ago, in a club in Tokyo, I meet that guy. And you know how we are Mediterraneans. He's Lebanese, I'm Greek. You're in a club, you're a little bit intoxicated, and we're immediately brothers, right? We jump to each other and say, hi, I love you. He ended up being an entrepreneur. He became one of my greatest friends. Samir, as Dimitris just told you, has been an amazing success in a country that everything is taxed against you. And that's the reason I wanted you to hear about him today, because in Greece, as in other emerging countries, I always hear people complaining that it's not possible. That nothing is possible because there's a problem with the government, the language, the culture, the people, the parents, the kids, whatever that is. And actually, he made it through all of this. So Samir, can you tell us a little bit of your story? How you got started?
Well, okay, well, it started in Tokyo. Well, it didn't start in Tokyo, but so I realized many people here needed a reason to stay in Lebanon. And we all have these views of the grass being greener on the other side. We've traveled the world, and we get to a point where we realize, where do I want to be? And so my uncle comes up to me one day. We're sitting on a balcony overlooking the Mediterranean up in the mountains, and he tells me, it's obvious that you want to be in Lebanon. You just need to figure out how to stay in Lebanon. And that's something that I feel a lot of Mediterraneans can relate to, because we all want to be on the Mediterranean, but we need to have a good reason to stay in our countries. And so I tried being a banker. I was flying private jets. It was a very nice life, but it wasn't something that would have kept me there. So that's when I decided, what if I could actually create opportunities? What if I could actually create an environment in which we could create startups, in which we could create companies? And so in 2010, I effectively created the first accelerator in Lebanon. And what's an accelerator? It's a space where people come together, and there are mentors and coaches and entrepreneurs, and together they move faster, better, and they potentially have a much higher chance of success, usually 10 times higher chance of success. And so that was 2010, and it was an incredible journey. In 2012, we started our first structured cycle, created 8 companies. Of those 8 companies, in less than 1 year, 3 of them received follow-on funding at valuations of over $1 million at a time when Lebanon was going through suicide bombings, car bombings, kidnappings. There's no government. And yet, somehow, we managed to convince investors that these 3 Lebanese companies operating out of Lebanon deserve to be valued at over $1 million each, and they deserve to stay in Lebanon and continue working.
Yeah, but let me stop you there, because actually, when you started, there was not even a single of these 8 companies existing, right? These 8 startups were not even there. We're not even talking about grabbing people that already had startups and putting them in an accelerator, so process and a methodology to make them grow faster. You actually created everything. You actually asked people to invest money in just an idea. Is that correct?
Well, we basically went around telling people, we're going to take $100,000 from each of you, we're going to create a microfund, and we're going to invest it in companies. And they're like, so what are the companies? We're like, we don't know. They're like, who is running these companies? We're like, we have no idea. They're like, so you want me to give you money? I don't understand. What's the basis of this investment? And what I realized was that as long as they see the passion in you, okay, they can believe that you will find a way to deliver on that investment that they're going to make. Because they're looking at you and they're saying, I'm investing in you. Even though it's going to go into other companies, I'm investing in you. And so we found 436 applicants. We brought them together. We selected 28 of them. We helped them develop ideas that they had or the ideas that they didn't have. And we created 8 companies in less than 12 months and funded them.
So you made actually people, extremely rich people, actually believe that they could invest small amounts of money, right? But they look at you and you're crazy.
Well, not even that. We actually convinced people to invest money. 3 of the tickets that we got were 1 week after a car bombing killed over 50 people in a residential area in Beirut. And they actually believed that even though the country was about to fall apart, there could be an opportunity to create, to empower, and to do all of that.
Did they make money?
Actually, yes, oddly enough. Not a lot of money, but by any accounts, on a short term, they actually made roughly 10% on their investment in 1 year, which is almost what you could make on a market. And we're anticipating, with follow-on rounds, these people could be making multiples. Now, the exciting part is that it's not really just about that. It's a little more than that, because we created these success stories, whatever you want to call them, and then these success stories inspired our government, or the one entity in our government that doesn't really need a government function, which is the Central Bank of Lebanon. It inspired the Central Bank of Lebanon to go and create Lebanon's first startup sovereign fund. So overnight, $400 million, okay, were made available by the government of Lebanon to invest in startups in Lebanon. I mean, I don't care how many companies I created or what the success was or how much the investors made. The fact that today there's a $400 million fund that was inspired by what we did is enough, is enough of a satisfaction and a return for any investor and any kind of activity.
Well, one of the things I see when I travel to all these emerging countries, and also not only emerging actually, because a lot of entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, they only dream about the Silicon Valley, right? The Silicon Valley is the de facto the standard and how it should be. And actually, I don't believe in it. I think, as I told you in the start, most innovation happens in spite of, and not because of. Not because of the right condition, because in spite of the bad conditions. It's actually that makes entrepreneurs being even more hungry, passionate, and this is why all these ecosystems start to be jump-started. This is also something I'm seeing in Greece. I've been coming to Greece in the past 5 years, and most of what I'm seeing today didn't exist 5 years ago. But that's the case. The same thing happened in Japan, in Singapore, in France, in the UK. All these systems are growing really, really fast. But one thing that actually makes a difference is that a lot of people think we need more money. Of course we need more money, but we know that the Greek government is basically bankrupt, right? You know that here in this room especially. But what actually is important is that you need, for an investor to invest, whether it's in a startup or any company, the investor has to have the incentive of making some money, some return on his investment. And I believe that governments, the role they can have is not to actually just push money in the system, but think about the other end of the system. So make easy for companies to be acquired, to be sold, so that, because for startups, for instance, the only way, there's no IPO market in these countries, the only way is to get acquired, is to have a bigger fish acquire a smaller fish. And that's how the investor will make money. And this is something, if you want to ask anything from your government here in Greece or any other emerging market, you have to think about the end of the system and stop thinking about pushing money in the system. You have to think about how create opportunities for VCs to make money. Am I right?
I think you're right, but I mean, guys, I don't think any of us is expecting any government to do us any favors.
I agree.
Okay, so I mean, I come from a country where governments have not done us any favors in 30 years. So what I think we can do is something even bigger than that. So if we expect the government to provide exits, then maybe we can, avoid the governments altogether and find ways to enable an opportunity to be visible from abroad. So basically, exits are generally not local. They tend to be someone from a better market or an entity that has a lot of money, identifies an opportunity, comes in and buys it out. And so when this fund was created and when we created these startups, we realized, okay, so now we've done this, but the next step is we have to find a way for these companies in 3 years, okay, to get acquired at $100 million plus, so that the entire country realizes how big entrepreneurship is, not just a few people. Like, we want to take it to the next level. So we started thinking, is it just Lebanon or is it a lot of other countries? And so I came in yesterday, I flew in from Sofia, I was speaking in Bulgaria at this accelerator, and they told me something very interesting in Bulgaria, which is, we're trying to get people interested in what we're doing. It's still a very quiet zone. And I fly in here and I see the same thing happening. I see people who are on the edge of their seat and they are really, really, really passionate in ways that you're like, first time in Athens, and I almost feel like, as Paul said it, I feel like I'm your brother and you're my sisters and brothers and so on, and we can all relate and we all feel the struggle, we all feel alive. And then I realized, okay, that's a very Mediterranean thing. There's a common culture there. And then I went to Bulgaria, Eastern European, so on, and I'm like, so this is something similar here. So maybe it's not just Mediterranean. Maybe it's this desire to make a difference and make this change happen because the environment is working against you. So then I realized, okay, so if every time a success happens, or a success is about to happen, Paul comes in, identifies them, takes them, ships them out to London or to the Valley, okay, and we lose that value, we lose these people, then every time someone gets excited, we pick them up and we take them somewhere else. So the country, the ecosystem never comes together. So I started thinking, what if we could build something that could actually bring people together locally? And so I realized that one of the reasons, and this is why it's a big problem here and elsewhere, one of the reasons why it doesn't happen locally is because local investors would much rather put money in Lebanon, at least, in real estate, because you get 20% year on year, and you're always going to make your money. The building is there, it's not going to go away. So I'm like, okay, what if we could actually convince the investors that there is something valuable in startups? And how do we do that? We need to show the investors the value, which means we need to speak the investors' language. But we also need to get the investors to understand the entrepreneur's language. Because if they're both talking, if they're both communicating on the same level, then deals can be made locally. And if deals are made locally, people stick around. And if people stick around, there's an ecosystem. And effectively, okay, we don't have to ship people out. And this is what I've been working on since this all happened. And I feel like there's an opportunity in every one of these countries, from Lebanon to Greece to Bulgaria, to even France, which is one of the most risk-averse countries there is, even though it's a massive economy, to bring people together and get them talking in the same language so as not to have to let go of these really passionate, powerful people that need an opportunity to stick around. Which brings us back to the first thing we were talking about. What kept me in Lebanon? What drove me to build something there? And I think maybe, hopefully, if we succeed, my brother and sister who graduated from MIT will have a good reason and opportunity to come back to Lebanon, because today there's literally no job position for them in Lebanon.
That's the same in Greece. But actually what I believe, and I think most people here will agree, is that at least Mediterranean countries, we share that same sentiment. People want to come back. I mean, usually they come back maybe for the holidays, but they want to come back.
Yeah.
They want to come back, they want to come back. All the Greeks I meet wherever, because I'm in the middle of Tokyo and I hear someone and say, that guy is Greek. And they all want to come back. So there is a huge opportunity for actually to create this movement to actually get to reverse the brain drain and to make these countries, actually these ecosystems, should rise very suddenly. Do you agree?
Yes, but the reverse brain drain, in my opinion at least, happens by allowing people to create their own opportunities, not by asking governments or institutions to create a job for someone who is overqualified. Like, if I'm a nuclear physicist and there's no nuclear science or any nuclear industry in Lebanon, there's really no point in me coming back. But if I'm a nuclear physicist and I have an opportunity in doing something on my own, maybe I can create a research entity and build something in Lebanon, but all I need is someone to show me that it can be done. And
heroes, you need a hero.
Yeah.
Someone who shows you the light.
So, not the light, that's just too much.
That's a Greek word, that's a Greek mythology.
Yes, but we need heroes, but we need role models. Our role models in Lebanon are warlords. Our role models are people with guns, okay? We need role models that are people who work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, don't sleep, party hard, but work really hard, so the party has to be hard, and and they're not in their comfort zone. And this is something that Paul, I got this opportunity to come and talk here, and I realized that nobody here is in their comfort zone. And I've been here for less than 12 hours.
Yeah.
And I realized that everyone here is like, what's going to happen tomorrow? Are we going to go bankrupt? Is this government going to fall? And no offense, guys, I love all of your problems, but I have to worry about whether I'm going to make it home. So that's a much bigger problem, but it's, we share a feeling that tomorrow may not exist. And so we never get too comfortable. And when you're not comfortable, that's where, okay, you really give from the inside. Because you're in continuous struggle. You're always like, what do I need to do? What do I need to achieve? And so on. And that is beautiful. But what happens, okay, when you want to be an entrepreneur for a long-term investment, as opposed to opening a cafe or pub? You need some kind of structure. And that's where ecosystems come in, even if it's not the government. A small accelerator, a small incubator, a guy like Paul who is a good catalyst, you know? They come in and they make you feel that you can struggle, okay, even though nothing is standing with you, nothing is supporting you. You can struggle and succeed on the long term. And I don't know, man. I think, honestly, we need to get people out of their comfort zone.
So, rise, guys. You need to get out of the comfort zone, and we know, because we're going sitting. So, rise, everybody, rise.
We're going to need everyone to get up. Seriously.
Stand up,
okay.
stand up. Stand up now, please. Even you watching the live stream, stand up.
So, this is really kind of crazy. It's from, what was it? Dead Poet Society? No, I'm just kidding.
Where's it?
There's no table to stand on, but it's when you get up that you see things in a different perspective, that you feel, okay, I can sit 7 hours, watch this, but if I'm standing up, I have to be paying attention because I can't do this for very long. Okay, I can't do this for very long, so I have to be passionate about it. And then someone like Paul comes in and says, you be passionate and I'll make sure you're going to do it for the next 3 to 5 years. And I'm going to make sure that we together can make it across that distance. So all together, when you stand up, you stand united with the strength that individually you're practically not going to make it. But together, whenever someone sits down, the people around him are going to reach out and help him back up. And this is how ecosystems are born. When people start actually realizing that it's not one of us that's going to succeed. It's all of us, and maybe it's going to be one guy who makes the $1 billion, but we're all going to make an incredible change in our countries because of that. And when that happens, each and every one of us becomes a player in that community.
And for that, I want you to applaud yourselves. Please, applaud yourself. Look at each other. Applaud yourself. Okay? You're going to make it. We're going to make it. Okay? If Lebanon can do it, Greece can do it as well.
Exactly. I mean,
okay, applaud yourself. Thank you.